What if one breakthrough could transform a $170 billion industry and reshape the future of energy? Hi, I'm Steve Hill, CEO of New Hydrogen. Around the world, hydrogen powers everything from fertilizers to steel to vehicles and chemical production. And while today's global hydrogen market is worth $170 billion, experts project it could grow into the trillions as the world races towards clean energy. The challenge is that almost all hydrogen is currently made from methane, which produces large amounts of CO2 and is bad for the environment. To make clean hydrogen a real replacement, it has to be produced at a price that makes sense for businesses, ideally matching or beating the cost of hydrogen made from fossil fuels. At New Hydrogen, we're developing Thermaloop, a new way to make clean hydrogen using only heat and water. No electricity, no fossil fuels. To explain how it works and why it's different, here's our CTO, Dr. Eric McFarland.
Hi, I'm Eric McFarland. I'm the CTO of New Hydrogen. So with a thermochemical process, it happens in steps. The first step is to expose the water to a material that reacts with the water and usually removes the oxygen. Once you've removed the oxygen and you've produced the hydrogen, now the oxygen's stuck in the material. And that material then needs to be re-reduced somehow and give off the oxygen. That's a second step or a third step. Sometimes you do this in multiple steps. But the idea is that you produce the hydrogen by oxidizing something else while you're reducing the hydrogen. And then you reduce that material that was oxidized in another step to give off the oxygen. So it has multiple steps, unlike electrochemistry where you'll have two electrodes and you do oxidation and reduction on the two electrodes. Now, electrolysis was the first commercial process to produce hydrogen. It turned out to be not particularly cost effective, and the Lane steam iron process, which was thermochemical in nature, used metallic iron to react with steam and produce hydrogen, so the oxygen made rust, and then they re-reduced the steel with the iron oxide with carbon monoxide, making CO2. At the time, CO2 wasn't a problem, but today we'd rather not make CO2. So other thermochemical processes were evolved that didn't make CO2 and basically made hydrogen and oxygen from the water molecule. These processes ended up being either expensive, or they were corrosive, or they required too high of a temperature to create a cycle that was cost effective, because generally the high temperatures raise the cost of the process and it makes it very expensive. So the Thermaloop process is different in that we rely on material changes just like previous attempts. So we will react the steam with our Thermaloop materials, oxidizing the material in the process and making hydrogen. But we also introduce other elements into the process so that we produce more than just hydrogen. We produce other products that give us what we call an entropic benefit, pulling the system forward towards completion and making hydrogen generation more energetically favorable. Then what we do is we use a phase change to change the phase of the material, and that phase change helps in the thermodynamics to allow us to do the reduction of that material and produce oxygen much more easily than had previously been demonstrated.
Thanks, Eric. Your explanation goes right to the core of what makes Thermaloop unique. It builds on decades of thermochemical research, but solves key problems that stopped previous systems from succeeding. Clean hydrogen at fossil level costs could transform entire sectors of the global economy, from manufacturing and transportation to energy storage, agriculture, and more, without forcing companies to pay more for energy. That scale of impact is what drives our work. We've already proven Thermaloop in the lab scale, and this milestone represents a major company value inflection point. Now we're moving towards larger systems, taking the critical steps that lead to commercial deployment. This is an opportunity to change the economics of hydrogen forever. Learn more and follow our progress at newhydrogen.com.